Hey guys, welcome back to Northeast PA Story. It's been so long since I last recorded an episode, so I'm super excited to be back. But other than that, today's guest of Northeast PA Story is Amanda Grace. Amanda is a PA Board Certified Peer Support Specialist, founder of the Flynn Foundation in Miss Red Rose City. Amanda is doing such amazing work in the community, is such make an amazing difference. And thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on and taking the time to chat. Like, how are you today?
I am doing very well. I'm not used to the time change or the getting so dark outside so quickly, but it's definitely something I'm trying to transition into.
Definitely. I'm literally the exact same way though. Besides like I'm just like I realize I don't know if that's the same for you as well, but like I realize I've really gotten so much more tired than usual. So I just hate like I just like I feel like the time change is such a huge adjustment, even though it's like hour forward or hour back, it's just a big adjustment than it should be.
Absolutely.
But like when did like your kind of passion for kind of mental health start?
Well, I have struggled with a mental health condition for most of my life. I was diagnosed at a very young age with attention deficit disorder. So that has kind of been a lot of my life story. I also am a person who has not chronic, sorry. I'm a person who has complex post-traumatic stress disorder. But I think that my passion and my work really started um, in 2017 after my cousin Sean died by suicide. That before that, my family very much, we were the type of family that was like, oh, mental health, that's a personal thing. We don't talk about it.
Mhm.
But after my cousin passed away, we started really having open and honest conversations about our struggles. And the more that I told my personal story and my family story with the community, I saw the impact that being vulnerable has on other people, not only in my personal recovery, but in also others as well.
Oh, that's so amazing. Like it's crazy because I like how much really does something really impacts the talk of mental health. Because of course mental health is so important. Like with me, I was diagnosed with anxiety at a young age. So it's like with being and living with that with the disorder, like you said, like with your disorder, it can really be hard not to talk about it, even if you lose a loved one. So as to say suicide or mental health or overdose, like it can really just, make a difference to how people really just talk about mental health in general.
Exactly.
Like what is Sean Flynn Foundation? Like, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So the Sean Flynn Foundation was something that I started in December of 2019, in memory of my cousin Sean. That I think it's really important to have open and candid conversations, specifically about concussions and traumatic brain injury. That my cousin Sean experienced many sports-related concussions growing up, before passing away at the age of 18. And we really think that his traumatic brain injury had a very large part in his depression and just how his brain functioned toward the end of his life. And we want to educate people the impact that concussions can have on your mental health. And because I strongly speak for my family personally that if we would have known that experiencing a concussion would have the impact that it has, which if you experience a concussion, you are at a larger rate of struggling with suicidal ideation and suicidal thoughts. And if
Mhm.
we would have known that, then we could have intervened and maybe Sean would still be here today.
Yeah, like with my personal experience, like when I dealt with a concussion like 2 months ago, it really does impact mental health. Like from my experience, when I was dealing with that concussion, it really just made a tremendous impact on the way I want to live and being in pain and being really just want to live life. And really, like you said, concussion can really impact
Yeah.
suicide thoughts and also your mental well-being, for example. But there's really no way of knowing what people are going through unless they talk about it. Because like if they talk about it, it makes people more aware. Like I barely talk about how I felt when I was dealing with that concussion. Like after then, I'm like, well, it's a concussion. Like, there's no worries. There's plenty of more I can probably come from. But it's like it really can play a valid role, like in like your mental well-being when doing concussion, even though it might not really make an impact until you really just deal with that from like a sports related injury, car accident, or there's so many ways, but it really can make a difference in your mental health, whether it's suicide or depression, anxiety. It can make a tremendous impact.
Yeah.
But like, what type of work do you do with the foundation to keep his kind of legacy alive?
Um, well, we use our social media as a platform to not only talk about concussions, but also to talk about mental health and suicide. That we have a very large community that surrounded our family, which I think is a very integral part of how we processed our grief is the amount of support that we had. The
Mhm.
community literally, quite literally, rallied around us by the bus loads, that we had bus loads of people
Oh,
who
wow.
were going to rally around us. And so we use our platform to still address the community about ways that they can be involved, whether that is doing a suicide prevention walk that we do, which we do one at the Philly Art Museum with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention every year. But we also use it to connect other people to the scholarship that we give away. That my cousin Sean was the class clown of Souderton Area High School 2 years in a row, that he was the funny guy. And so we wanted to honor him and his legacy by offering a scholarship every year. So it is upcoming in January. We're going to renew our scholarship for the third time. And it is open to all high school juniors and seniors in the state of Pennsylvania. And it's a very simple essay. Anybody qualifies, that there's no GPA requirement or anything like that. It's just tell me a story from your life that will make us laugh. So that's,
Ooh.
yeah, that's
I'll
how
have
we.
to check that out. That's seriously amazing. Like, when does the walk take place? For the at the Philly Art Museum.
That art museum, it just happened. That normally happens the first week of October, and it is right on the rocky steps of the Philadelphia Art Museum, and thousands of people come. And it's a beautiful walk, and it's very interesting because there's really nothing like it. That I've never been to a place that is so incredibly sad, but yet there's so much joy,
Yeah.
that everybody is there because we are all part of a club that nobody wants to be in, yet we all know the same secret handshake. But we all celebrate the lives of the ones that we've lost, and we laugh and we cry, and it's just such a wonderful, amazing experience. And I invite everybody who is in the community, whether you've experienced a loss yourself, whether you've had a personal struggle, or you just want to come and support the community. It is quite amazing.
Ooh, I would definitely have to check that out next year.
Yeah.
That's something I'd definitely be interested in. But like, in your opinion, personally, like, how can we personally prevent suicide?
So, with preventing suicide, because it is a multifaceted issue, there's not one size fits all, unfortunately. And I wish that there was. I wish that we could just like wave a magic wand or do this one thing and then everything would be fine. That everybody has their own struggles and their own reasons for why they struggle with suicidal ideation. But the the number one thing is that talking saves lives.
Mhm.
That if we talk about it, that we are able to see that we're not alone in our thoughts. I'm a person who also struggles with suicidal ideation.
Mhm.
And community very much helps with, trying to reduce those suicidal thoughts. And when we talk about it, it also is going to shed a light on the subject. That the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has an amazing new campaign called Talking Away the Dark. And that is exactly what we want to encourage people to do, is to have life-saving conversations with people, because it's not always about telling people, oh, when you're struggling, reach out. We also need to be the people that reach out to other people when they're struggling so immensely. So I think that's something that anybody can do, is be that listening ear, and not shy away from the subject. It's a hard subject to talk about, and it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But when we open that door, that we are really able to get down to the nitty-gritty, and we can really save some lives.
I love what you said because, like, with talking about suicide and your personal struggles, it can, like you said, it can be very difficult to talk about. Like for me, like it took me so long to talk about what I was going through. Like especially during the pandemic times, like my mental health, I'm sure for many others as well, went through a dramatic change and a downfall to the point where I didn't want to leave the house or be seen by other people. So it really can play a dramatic role in our lives. Is when I talked about what I was going through to other people or during a podcast episode or whatever, it really makes you feel much better, but also very, emotional to really just like talk about it because it's very hard to discuss what you're going through because you're afraid that people might not understand or they might judge you. But if they judge you, then like what's going on with them? Like that's stupid.
Yeah.
But it's like it really is very difficult to talk about it, no matter the situation. Like it's always, mental health is such an important topic to talk about. So it really is so important to talk about because who knows, talking to someone might save their life one day. Like who knows?
And it's very there's a very large misconception that if you use the word suicide, that it's going to put the idea in somebody else's head. And that is simply, it's a misconception. It is 100% not the truth. You cannot put the idea of suicide in somebody's head. Either somebody is thinking about suicide or they're not. So it's really important that when we have these really open, honest conversations, that we actually say it. Like, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? That and I know for people that aren't used to having conversations like that, that is jarring to even think about. Like, I don't know if I could say these things. And you can absolutely say those things. And if it's really hard for you, I really encourage people to practice saying it in front of the mirror, because that, like I said, like having these open and candid conversations really lets people know that they are not alone, and that having suicidal thoughts and struggling with your mental health, there's nothing wrong with that. You're
Mhm.
not crazy. There's not something wrong with you, and it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way.
Exactly. I love that. But do you think social media plays kind of like a valid role in mental health?
I think social media is a double-edged sword. I think that there are really positive things about social media and really negative things about social media. I think that when it comes to cyberbullying, that social media has a way to make it now anonymous. That before, bullying was something that you kind of did face to face or in person, and now over the internet, it can be anonymous. That people can create these spam accounts and use it to bully one another. But I do think that social media has really positive effects. That it allows people to have a sense of community. That people who, I can speak for somebody in my life, is my cousin. My cousin growing up didn't have friends going to school. That they went to school, they did what they had to do, and they came home and they didn't have any other friends. But they had their friends on Xbox. And I know that my cousin might never ever meet these people that they've played with on Xbox for the last 20 years. But that person who lives all the way in California is their best friend and knows every single thing about them. So social media can really bring somebody who does not feel like they have a community and really provide that community for somebody.
100%. Because even if like you might not have friends and in your community, social media can really make a friend out of you, because even with social media, you can connect with so many people. Even with like you being an influencer, or you're in entertainment, you're an actor, or you're just a regular person. Like you can reach out to many people. Like there's so many sites where you can meet different friends. Even whether it's like gaming on Xbox, Fortnite, like Roblox, like there's so many things.
Exactly.
And like you can meet so many people. You might not meet them in real life. You might, but as long as you make a friend online or in person, at least you have someone, whoever knows something about basically everything about you. At least you have someone in person or virtual that knows everything about you, and it has a friend. Like you don't need a million friends to be a good person. Like it's like as long as you maybe have 1 to 3 friends, good, like true friends, like in your life, then that's the most important thing. As long as you have someone to really connect to, then that's the most important thing. That's something I literally had to learn as I grew older, is that like you don't need a million friends. Like if you do, then someone might be fake. Who knows? Like that's a part of life. Like that's something like most of the people would go through, is how many friends they have. Like, oh, why would I have so many friends like this person? Like friends are not gonna last. Like it's not gonna happen unless, well, we'll see. Well, it changes, but it's like friends really does come and go, but for
They
families, that's an
do.
important thing. Like as long as you have family and maybe 1 to 3 close friends, and that's all you need. But like, what kind of like is your journey with mental illness? Like what? I know you kind of mentioned this a little bit early on in the episode, but what is kind of like your journey with it?
My journey, like I said, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder when I was very young. And I didn't know what that meant for me, but I knew how I was treated by other people. And also how I was treated by teachers. That so I learned very early on, what stigma was,
Mm,
and that I could, what's the word I'm thinking of? I could, for lack of better words, manipulate the way people viewed me if I left out little details about myself, that I wasn't lying, but I wasn't telling the whole truth, that people didn't need to know that I had ADD. People didn't need to know that I was a victim of a sexual assault. People didn't need to know that I had complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I was very good at playing a part, that I wore a mask, that if there was an Academy Award, I would have won the Oscar. And that is stigma. That I thought that people would think that I was crazy and there was something wrong with me. That I became somebody completely different and I was really good at it. And when my cousin passed away, my whole world came crashing down. Like I didn't know there was a place lower than rock bottom, but there is, and I found it. And I realized that my diagnosis is not written on my forehead and it's not an extra limb attached to my body, that it's in my backpack and I have to carry it, and it might be heavier some days, but it doesn't define who I am. And I can say that I have recovery is not easy, that I'm a person who lives in active recovery, with a mental health condition. I have tried medications, I have been to numerous therapists, and I finally found a system that works for me in my recovery. And it is not easy, but it is 100% worth it. And I can say that now that I am 5 years in my recovery, that I am the person that I needed when I was 18 years old. And there was a time in my life where I didn't think that I was going to live to see my 21st birthday, but now that I am 25, I am so incredibly thankful that I also had a amazing group of people who refused to give up on me even when I wanted to give up on myself.
Oh, that's incredible. Like when you have that support system of people not giving up on you when you want to give up yourself, like that's the people really that you need in your life. Like when you go through those trauma and stigmas, like it can be very hard. Like it really can because like when you're going through those traumas and assaults, addiction, like whatever you're going through, like it's very hard to live up to what you want to be. Like you might be, let's for example, you may be or like addicted to alcohol. And you have a hard time, giving up on that. Like but you want to give up, but you really can't because you don't know what to do. So it really is having that source, like a therapist or some of your closest friends, or it like just having that support system and resources and be like, hey, I don't know what to do. Like, how can I help? And like when you go through those sources, it really can make you so difficult because when I was dealing with like depression and anxiety over the last couple of years, it really makes me think like, oh, should I really just keep living? Like, what should I do? Like, what should I keep going? And sometimes when I'm thinking like when I in a happy state and when I'm versus when I'm in a miserable, sometimes I'm like, why am I thinking like that? Like, why am I like want to end it? Like, I have a good life. Like, why do I want to give up on that when people are around me want to be there for me? So it really can be so difficult to really just understand how I'm feeling. Because sometimes it can be very hard to explain what you're feeling and what you've been through over the last couple of months. So really it can be having a good support system that really can I keep yawning. I'm sorry about that. But is having a good support system, whether it's like your family or friends or even your coworkers can be a good way to have a group of people because as long as you have a couple of people that are there for you, encourage you, and when you're at your lowest, that's really know that you're going to get through that hard moment in your life, truly. But like, what do you see often as a peer support specialist?
Yeah. I'm a peer support specialist, and what that is I am certified through the state of Pennsylvania as a person with lived experience. So I went through a certification process and I utilized my lived experience with mental illness in order to help other people in their recovery journeys. And I work specifically with youth and young adults. And the number one thing that I see is that people feel so incredibly alone and isolated in a time where we have never been more connected through social media and technology. People also have never been so incredibly alone. And that is the number one thing that we're seeing across the board is that a lot of young people are feeling isolated and alone, and that they don't have people to talk to. And even something that is very interesting is I even when I was growing up, that I had like as far as elementary school, middle school, high school, I had a large group of friends. I had about like I would say at least 10 like good friends. But nowadays kids don't have large group of friends like that anymore. They might have one to two really good friends, and unfortunately, as kids grow and change, that I know when I lost a few friends, it didn't matter to me because I had a bunch of other friends. But now when kids are losing friends, that they only had those one or two friends to begin with, and so now they're feeling even more isolated and alone than they were already feeling to begin with.
Yeah, like it really can make you feel alone. It's like when you versus like with different people growing up, like when you grow up, you might have like a million friends in middle school, elementary, but even when you get to high school, you only might have like five friends, two friends. Like it can change with people growing up having different interests and changing personalities and just growing up. Like friendships might change and that's okay. Like people change and like it's okay to change the way you are. Because no matter how you are, like you're just gonna be amazing and you know what's best for you. Like no one's gonna know you better than yourself. So it really can like make you feel isolated because even if I have a couple of friends through social media or around my neighborhood or something, I oftentimes feel alone. I'm gonna be honest about that. I'm not gonna hold back about it. Like I oftentimes feel alone, even if I have a good support system and good couple of friends. Like it's okay to feel alone even if you have a million friends. That's a part of life. Even if you might feel alone in that moment, like there's always probably that one family member or a friend they can turn to for support, say, hey, I feel alone. Can you maybe FaceTime or come over? But it's okay to really feel, alone, even if you really had that good support system and friends.
Yeah.
And like you recently won Miss Red Rose City. Like, how did you kind of prepare for that pageant?
Well, I won Miss Red Rose City, which the Red Rose City is Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Lancaster City. And I won the wonderful title of Miss Red Rose City in February. And I prepared for the competition by really just sticking to my why. That a lot of people have different reasons why they compete in the Miss America organization, whether that is um, to earn scholarship money for school, or some people just really want to be able to perform their wonderful talent that they have. But my why has always been my work. And going into that, I really just continue to refrain my mind that every day is a different day. You never know what the judges are going to look for, and they might not be looking for me, and that's okay because I know why I'm here. I'm here to make a difference in the lives of youth and young adults. And if I can make one person in the audience feel less alone, then I've attained my goal, whether or not I leave here with a crown on my head or not. And I went in with that mindset. And I was very fortunate that they selected me to be their Miss Red Rose City this year. But I am so incredibly thankful. The Lancaster community has shown me so much love, and I will be eternally grateful for the community that is in Lancaster. That really, they're just some of the most wonderful people that I've ever met in my life.
For sure. Like I feel like every county that resides Philly is just amazing people. Like I don't know why, but everyone like that surrounds Philly is just so like supportive and welcoming for those pageants, or even if in general people are visiting. There's just some of the sweetest people ever.
Thank you.
But like, do you have like any like experience in pageants before you did Miss Red Rose City?
I did have experience with the year prior. I was Miss Mountain Laurel, which a mountain laurel is our state's flower. But prior to that, I competed for pageants a couple times, and I did not walk away with a shiny hat on my head. But I started back competing because I decided to go back to school. I go to Millersville University and I study social work. And I wanted a little extra scholarship money to help me pay for books and stuff. But um, going into it, I really didn't have any pageant experience prior. My first competition was the Miss Philly competition in, oh geez, I think that was in 2019. And I walked in not knowing a single thing about Miss America, but knowing that I wanted to reach people with the message that they are not alone and that it's okay to struggle with your mental health.
I love that. Like that's seriously an awesome mission. Like it really is. And like the last thing I have to ask you before we head off is do you plan on doing another project after Miss Red Rose City, or do you plan on like retiring and just end it off that?
I do. I do believe that this is going to be my last year competing. So I do have a couple local competitions that I'm looking to compete at. Hopefully I walk away with another shiny hat on my head. But after this year, I think that I'm going to gracefully retire from pageants, that I will be 26 in June. And I think that the Miss America organization has given me so many wonderful opportunities, and that I want to continue to support the organization in a different way. I would like to eventually have my own local competition and be able to provide scholarship opportunities for young women. So after this year, I'm going to move on to wonderful new things.
Ooh, that's terrific. Like I know probably a lot of people are like, "Oh, are you serious?" Like I can't. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there
like, it's
definitely
always
are.
good for a new change, though. Like where it's like something different in the Miss America organization, or even doing something completely different. It's always good to really just kind of grow out that like array of pageants and just try something new. But thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on and chatting. It means so much. Like your work has seriously making a difference. It is really resonating with my personal life, and like I'm sure for everyone else as well. Your work is completely amazing. And thank you everyone for listening. And I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. And thank you, Amanda, for coming on. It was so great meeting you.
Thank you. It was great meeting you too.